because it's important. And that's what I wanted to talk about, being stuck, and how I've looked back at my life and seen places where I could have been stuck. And there's no absolute answer, there's no right or wrong answer, but it's just about moments that I could have stopped and become stuck. Hey everybody, my name is Angie Murenga. You're watching Just Angie. It's Lifestyle Thursday, and I'm sharing little nuggets from my own life. So I am the guest on the show today, and I'm really excited on talking about things regarding lifestyle. I think I did a little video during my birthday, and just sharing some leadership nuggets and from my own life. And a lot of people wrote in and said, please do more of those videos. So this is what I'm trying to do. So send me also topics that you'd like me to address, then I know exactly what it is that you want me to speak into or speak at. We're coming up to the Unstuck conference, which is going to happen on the 1st and the 8th of August. Please look out for the information on the social media, even on the Just Angie platform, and wherever else you get information, even KBS, Kingdom Business Solutions, because it's important. And that's what I wanted to talk about, being stuck, and how I've looked back at my life and seen places where I could have been stuck. And there's no absolute answer, there's no right or wrong answer, but it's just about moments that I could have stopped and become stuck. And I think that's the difference. There's some people who things happen and they're able to get past them, and there are people who things happen and then you just stay there in that place. So I was thinking of some of my unstucking moments. It's amazing that they say that you understand things by looking back, yeah? Because now I can understand. At that point, I didn't fully understand, but I'm one person who doesn't get stuck. I mean, I try very hard. I'm always moving. Sometimes maybe moving too fast, but always moving. And therefore, it was time for, I think I'd been to a church for quite a long time. I think Nairobi Chapel. I'd attended it for very many years with my daughter. And I'd never feel the need to respond to the altar call, but there was an evolving that was taking place as I attended church. Remember, first I used to come. I'm that person. If you find them in church, that person. Okay, we're not doing church the way we used to do it any longer. But I'd be high, because you can imagine you're high and then you're not high. Well, you've been drinking and you've been smoking. That combination, even that smell, it's enough to drive anyone crazy. And then I have attitude. I'm sure my eyes were bloodshot, and I'm like, is it any of your business? I'm still here. Everyone should face forward and listen to the pastor, what he's saying. But then an evolving started happening. I stopped drinking on weekends, or stopped drinking on, I think I first stopped drinking on Saturday so that I'm sober enough on Monday. So an evolving was taking place. And I was changing and engaging in the conversation, but not giving my life to Christ. And so I think that was a major unstucking moment, the day that I did give my life to Christ. And I did because of what the pastor said. He said that maybe you're waiting for your life to become orderly, then you give your life to Christ, but it doesn't work that way. You give your life and then he creates the order. And that's exactly what happens. That's a major unstucking moment. Another one was work. When I had never thought that I would leave work to go into ministry. It had never occurred to me, ever, times 1,000, never. But as I engaged on this journey, the church was, I think, multiplying, and therefore we were attending church according to the church service that you were going to multiply with. And then for some reason, when things become, when there are less people, I don't know, there was a what is it called? A breakthrough service. There was a service where people would pray before the actual service. And I found myself there. Sometimes I wonder, I think when people are many of us, then you divide them up. I think it sort of makes us step up into responsibility. So anyway, I started praying with a team that prayed before church. And therefore I started getting involved in church activity without even knowing it. You know, it wasn't like a big red sign up for church activity, but you find that you're doing this. And then my pastor at that time was teaching people something called foundation class. I think he had written some notes and they were become new believers, and he was trying to coach them in the marketplace in that area. And so I think it started something called Mizizi, because he created a book now, and it became Mizizi. And then he decided, which I love, decisions, that the whole church would go through what we call Mizizi even today. And we were a very small church. We were 400 people. I remember it was the month of February going into March. So it was 10 weeks. I think it has 10 chapters. So it was going to be 2.5 months of going through this study. And that study was completely life-changing for me. And that is when I knew that I had to quit my job, that was my instruction, and go into full-time ministry. And I guess another unstucking moment was when we got to church for us to make that decision. There were 2 coffins. I love Mavuno Church. Lots of drama, which is good. I'm a dramaful person. And there were 2 coffins in church. Actually, there were these guys who came in wearing black suits and black shades, and they walked in with 2 coffins and they placed them at the front. And then we were instructed to pass by the coffin and look inside. And inside the coffin was a mirror. And so you saw yourself in the coffin. Very scary moment, but very defining moment as well. And that was another place of getting unstuck, especially for me, because it was my instruction, it's not your instruction. For me, you have to listen to your own instruction. So my instruction was to stop working and to go and to start serving in the church, which I did for a whole year. And I remember lots of favor, but also my biggest issue, or at the time that I presented before God, was like, I have a daughter, and I wanted her dad to be able to take care of her, which he did and has done until today, and done a really great job of investing in her, which is good and commendable. But my biggest item was how I was going to pay my rent. I mean, we could do anything else. I was like, we'll borrow food. Food is not an issue, especially in Africa. But rent, where am I going to get this money for rent? And I remember on the 29th of December, I'll never forget, somebody called me and they said, I know you're going into full-time ministry next year, and I just feel like I have an instruction to pay your rent for the whole of the next year. And I started screaming. I forgot that I'm living, there were neighbors, because neighbors came out. I had another Somali neighbor, he even came out with a panga, ready to kill him, and he was like, who is killing Mama Althea? That time I am screaming with joy. And you know, people who know me, I can celebrate Jesus. I always say sometimes that's why God gives me things, because he knows the action. It's going to be those David moments of rolling on the ground. I'm not going to just say thank you. So I was screaming. I was so excited. I could not believe it. Like the biggest load had been taken off my shoulders, and I could now serve God, because at least we had a roof over our heads. Everything else now was secondary after that. And it was going to come in time. So that's another unstucking moment. I think another one was I'd driven for 12 years. And then, like good Kenyans that we are, I had a car before I started working for this organization, but I sold my car and spent the money instead of saving the money. So please save money, put it into an account. Because you see, I wasn't thinking in the future, what if you're not working here, then you won't have a car. I had a beautiful company car, and there I was driving it. But for the first time in 12 years, I had to start walking. But I had favor. I said I had favor, so I have to celebrate God and his favor. So the car I had was a company car with a company fuel card and everything. And my last working day was supposed to be around the 20th of December. And so it came, and I was going to hand over the car. And that's why I like people who just love people, you know. And my boss said, no, what is she going to do without a car over December? No, let her have the car plus the fuel card. I'm not an employee of the organization, and we'll collect the car in January. So I had the car all over Christmas. I think I even went to Mombasa. I can't remember, but I just had the car, and I thought that was so human. But another place of unstacking was the day they came to pick that car. Because you look outside in the parking lot, there's no car. You've been used to driving, you've driven for 12 years, and over to the matatus, and where are they collected even? And I was working at the Mavuno Church in South C, I think, or South B, near the mosque. And it was so hard, it was such a hard commute to get a matatu so I walked down the hill, Upper Hill, because I was living in Upper Hill, to Nairobi West, then from Nairobi West, get an hour. It was too much. So anyway, in the end of it, God showed me a way to walk. There was a shortcut I could take, go over the rail and walk to work. And I said, those were the most beautiful moments of my life. You know, becoming unstuck from being dependent on a vehicle, on a car, because I had it. There were days before that where I used to take matatus, and actually I remember I used to work in a restaurant in Laundry House on the ground floor. And I would be at Laundry House by like 10 to 6 in the morning, you know, take a matatu, stop I think at what was Sunbeam, come up, walk up through town. I knew all the parking boys and all the parking girls. You know, some things you can only do in certain ages. Now, if you just drop me there, I think I'll just collapse in a heap. But I did it. I came across and I'd opened the restaurant. So back to my old story was so I'd walk to work in the morning. It was the most beautiful times I have ever had. I have honestly not enjoyed a season like that one. It was so important. Did I say not enjoyed? I have really enjoyed a season. Like I really enjoyed that season. I would leave by 7 in the morning, go praying, worshiping, listening to the birds, looking at things that I would never have normally looked at as I whizzed past in my car, and just savoring the moment. I think that was another thing. It was such a taking it all in moment. And I think I even lost weight. I didn't even notice, but I lost weight. And I think my final unstucking story will be about stopping to smoke. Because in my life, I had never envisioned that I could stop smoking. It was the worst addiction ever, and it's an addiction that I would not wish on anyone. It is such a horrible addiction, especially when you want to stop. I guess when you're doing it, but I still think as a smoker, people are coughing, you're still smoking it. I don't think it's one of those enjoyable things. Anyway, for me, I had gotten to the point where I needed to stop smoking. I wanted more than anything else in the world to stop smoking, and it wasn't happening. And then I had an unstucking moment. Actually, when I was being unstuck, I was looking for a place to smoke, and I was at a Christian retreat. And I'm like, where am I going to smoke in this Christian retreat? So I was looking for a corner where I could go and smoke. I was strategizing. And then, thank God, the Holy Spirit caught me there. So I think it was Pastor Simon Bevy and Reverend Pastor Linda. And they called forth for something. I can't remember what exactly it was, or to be prayed for addictions. So I went and I was prayed for, and I never smoked again. But there was a second part of the unstucking. So there was A, then there was B. So every time I'd been prayed for before for addictions, I would always surrender my cigarettes, but never my lighter. Because I was anticipating to go and buy more cigarettes on my way. But this one, somehow was different because I surrendered both my cigarettes and my lighter. And I'll never forget, I was laughing. I was telling Pastor Sophie, because I gave them to her. I said, your handbag better not fall anywhere, because people wonder, Allah, what is the pastor doing with cigarettes in a handbag? Anyway, so I surrendered the lighter and I knew something had changed. But there was still part 2. At home, there's a place that I would go smoke. And for some reason, I kept feeling like you cannot open that door. Do you know, I lived in that house for over a year after that. I never opened that door. I just knew I cannot open this door. Like, that deliverance has taken place spiritually, but even physically, I can't open this door. And so I never went out into that space ever again, even for the duration that I lived in that house, because that was my place for smoking. And then for some reason, I felt and I understood that the 7 days had to go by without me smoking, and then I would never smoke. And it happened. And it was one of those things that I never had envisioned my life without the smoking. So those are my unstucking stories. Please look for the Unstuck conference. This year's theme is access for extraordinary impact, because we need to access and then we need to have extraordinary impact. And I think I've also said, sometimes God gives us access, but we don't take it. We don't take the step towards it. So I pray that my unstucking stories will encourage you to rip yourself away from that thing that you need to get unstuck from. And I've just had a visual. You know, when you stick 2 pieces of, let's say you stuck 2 books together and you remove them, there'll be a part of each of the book that will go with the other one. So I'm not saying that some situations are very hard to get unstuck from, but still you must. And maybe you can take a little bit away from that, and then you can take a little bit away from the situation, but don't get stuck. in that situation. God bless you, and see you next Thursday.